Panel session of the day on biological, chemical and physical hazards assessed with HACCP. Before I call on the honorable panel members, few points of discussion I would like to highlight here. Food hazards and HACCP and microbiological hazards assessment techniques, hazard analysis for the development of an HACCP plan in the F&B industry, implementation of the latest techniques in HACCP, HARPC to improve food quality and safety, and many more. So please now help me welcome the honorable panel members with a big round of applause because it's the first morning session of the day and we want the full energy from the floor. Our first panel member, Mr. Krishna Kumar Joshi, Regulatory Head Food from ITC Limited. A big round of applause to Mr. Krishna Kumar Joshi. Joshi ji, welcome to the panel. Always a pleasure to have you. Joining next, we have Mr. Uday Manikandan, Director Quality Assurance, Licious. A big round of applause to Uday ji. Uday ji, welcome to the panel. Joining next, we have Mr. Jagdish Pant, General Manager QCA, Olive Lifesciences. A big round of applause to Jagdish ji. Jagdish ji, welcome to the panel again. Joining next, we have Mr. Alpesh Jain, Head Dudhmansagar Dairy, Mehsana District Cooperative Milk Producers Union Limited, Amul Group. A big round of applause to Alpesh ji. Alpesh ji, welcome to the panel. Joining next, we have Dr. Kriti Soni, Head R&D, Kapiva Ayurveda. A big round of applause to Dr. Kriti. Dr. Kriti, welcome to the panel. Joining next, we have Dr. Naveen Dhanda, Director, JSBS Foods. A big round of applause to Dr. Naveen. Doctor, welcome to the panel. Joining next, we have Mr. Pvt.Ltd, Chief Quality Officer, Mother Dairy Fruit and Vegetables. A big round of applause to Pvt.Ltd ji. Welcome to the panel, Pvt.Ltd ji. And now I would like to welcome on stage our honorable moderator, Mr. Deshraj Sharma, Head Quality India Ferrero Group. A big round of applause to Deshraj ji. So, fantastic panel here with 8 panel members, and Deshraj, I think all over to you as a panel moderator. Wishing the panel all the best.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. I'm thankful to Synnex Group for arranging such a conference. And today's topic is very interesting. Also, I have a very experienced panel, reputed and respected panel here with me. More than 100 years of experience in this panel on technical side, working in industry, and I would be happy to answer any question in the end. So I would suggest to take the panel, start the panel with Mr. Krishna. Mr. Krishna, would you like to start the discussion with the topic as we see like HACCP, which is not a very new practice or a process or a risk mitigation process, but can you tell from your experience what could be, can you explain the HACCP from your experience to the audience?
I'm not going to talk about, the education part of it, what HACCP is. I think almost all the people here must be knowing what HACCP is. I think it's being implemented across the world since last almost 45 years. When NASA went into space, But in Indian context, how many just raise the hand to understand whether this particular system has a legislative environment in our country or not? Legislatively, somebody is controlling it and somebody is penalizing you on this particular element or not. Just raise a hand on that. If somebody knows that. Okay. If not, then I'll explain you. In India, the HACCP is a legislative instrument, and the legislative instrument is Food Safety Standard Authority of India. You can go to their FSS Act, which is a principal document, wherein you can see the section 3.1U, wherein the hazard definition is given. It means it is very much in the preamble of the Food Safety Standard Act. Section 26 is the responsibility of the food business operators. In that section 26, they have explained that what are the various responsibilities of the food business operator, and HACCP is a part of that. Again, there is a section 28 about food recall, section 33 prohibition orders. You know, if some risk is there, some hazard is there, the authority can issue a prohibition order. They can shut your plant also. Section 34 emergency prohibitions is there, and then there is a section from 48 to 67 which talks about the penalties and imprisonment of, you know, your act. So what basically I am trying to tell you is a connect between HACCP, whether it is a voluntary, whether it is statutory, and what kind of legislative instruments are available with the government to penalize you if you don't do it. So that is a different perspective where you can link that whenever you are doing certain kind of hazard analysis, critical control point, monitoring, identifying, risk management, risk characterization, everything, it is boiled down to your statutory instrument or the statutory teeth of the government. So keep in mind those sections, understand that, and then do your risk assessment. The second part which I would like to highlight is that you should have a confidence of your management also. If there is no confidence within your management of implementing HACCP, your HACCP program will be on pause.
Thank you, Mr. Krishna. Very well said. You explained like how HACCP is important, not only for the company's reputation, regulatory aspect, as well as to the consumer, which is also the key key focus for our industry. So now I would suggest, like, you know, we know HACCP from long, but there is another element I did recently, a couple of years back, HARPC, which is some of us already know about it, and some, you know, so I would suggest Mr. Naveen to explain what is the HARPC and how it is relevant to us.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you Synnex for having me, and thank you to you for managing the panel. And coming to this abbreviation which is called HARPC and what it means for food operations, before I dwell on to that, I want to take you to the background where it comes from. It is rooted into Food Safety Modernization Act, which is a US Act passed by US Congress in 2011. And now it has the charge of this law is given to the FDA. So FDA is the mentor of it. And what FDA has done is, under this HARPC, they have put some set of principles. And that set of principles decides an approach how to develop your food safety plan. And to begin with, it says that preliminary steps. The preliminary steps talks about the same kind of approach, the approach we use for HACCP approach. So you have a competent team, and one of the members of the competent team is PCQI, and that PCQI is the kind of a qualification for the person who is going to head the team. And if I elaborate this abbreviation, PCQI, what it means, it says Preventative Controls Qualified Individuals. So, for the next 2 minutes, I'll be focusing on preventative controls. So that is actually the soul of this HRAPC. And probably, at the back of your mind, my predecessor was talking about HACCP, and now all of a sudden we are talking about HRAPC. They both are two different kinds of approaches. They both have a set of principles that gives you an approach how to develop your food safety plan, right? So coming back to HRAPC, what kind of, the set of principle it has, preliminary steps, have a team, go out and look for hazards. And what kind of hazards it speaks about? Before, in HACCP approach, we focus about biological and physical and chemical sort of things, but now they have listed down a number of hazards in it. That also speaks about allergen control, pesticide, drug residues, and a number of other hazards. Go and look at the list, what it says about it. So the hazards scope as such, or the list of hazards, has gone really wider and longer. So once you have developed and conducted an hazard analysis, now you come to what you do about hazards. So you set up preventative controls for those hazards in your food safety plan. So this second step is the core which is going to safeguard your food safety plan, right? So once you have done preventative controls in place, now what you do? So you come up with a sort of a monitoring, observation of those hazards, but the preventative controls that you are applying, are they effective or not? So the monitoring is going to take control of that. So that's going to give you a picture of what's happening on day-to-day basis. So once you have done that monitoring and you find something wrong, then there's a process called corrective actions. So corrective actions will make sure that if something goes wrong or is drifted, the process is drifted, corrective actions comes and play and correct your procedure, right, or the processing. So this second step is core to your food safety plan, right? And then you go to and also in that, what FDA says to you is that you must have 4 types of preventative controls. That is your processive preventative controls, that is very equivalent to CCP or CCP of HACCP system, right? So more or less. So then you go to and have sanitation preventative controls. You must have scientific data behind it to back up all kinds of preventative controls you're going to have. So second one is your sanitation preventative controls, then you go and allergen preventative controls, and then you go for your supply chain preventative controls. So that will look after, it could be just a matter of certificate of analysis from your supplier, right? So that's the 4 set of preventative controls that FDA wants, that's how they guide you. And then you come, so once you have this hazards list, preventative controls, monitoring, corrective actions, then you go and do your verification. So what verification means is that the checker is actually checking the checker. So that is your monitoring. So verification is like a bird eye view or what's happening through the entire line of processing, right? So once you have done that, and validation is of course part of that, and then you comes to, the part of backing up your processing, and that's record keeping. You must have all these documents in place. If something goes wrong, you can go back and check what actually happened on that particular day for that particular batch. So once you have done that, and then you must have, if something goes wrong and someone finds that, some error has taken place and that error can be harmful for the consumer, you must have a recall plan.
Thank
and
you, Naveen. You very well said, I think you very well said it is a preventive control. And already we know HACCP, we know HARPC. It is in addition to HACCP in some industries, because want to prevent the risk before it reaches to your facility, which reaches to your factory, it reaches to your product. So the preventive controls at your incoming, your factory, your sanitation, your change rooms. So, and also it is also realized, for the microbiological risk, that you cannot wait for the critical control to act. You have to, in case of pathogen, the critical control is the product get contaminated and you get a count and you have to reject the product. You have to put a preventive control to not allow the pathogen to enter your facility, enter in your raw material with your effective controls on your change rooms, your sanitation, your equipment should not get contaminated with your effective cleaning and sanitation practices. So I think it is adding another value to our food defense, food safety, and it's very relevant, and I think the industry is catching up. Now I would like to put another angle to the topic is how the FSSC 22000 is handling all these aspects of HACCP and HARPC, and for that I would suggest Mr. Alpesh to put some light on this, please.
Good morning. As said by moderator sir, I would be touching on the FSSC part, and it itself inbuilt the HACCP as well as HACCP. I think few of people might be knowing and few might be not knowing on the FSSC. It stands for the Food Safety Systems Certification, and it's a non-profit organization and approved by GSFI in 2010. It's a complete farm to fork system and having more than around 10,000 certification across world. So it's approved across world. The system is approved. It's a high level structure having three mainly the elements. One is ISO 22000-2018, then it's PRPs and additional requirements. The first element is ISO 22000-2018 is having a 10 clauses based on the PDCA, plan, do, check and act, including 7 principles of HACCP and 12 steps of HACCP. If I say second is PRPs, prerequisite programs, it's industry specific PRPs are being developed. There are 7 sector specific PRPs have been developed. For example, ISO 22002, the version 1 is talking about PRPs for the manufacturing industries. In that, there are 18 PRPs, for example, usage of rework, use of utilities, pest control, that will cover into that. If I say the third element, that is additional requirements are environmental monitoring, then food defense, food frauds, use of logo, etc. I would say that FSSC is not only for the food industry or food industry, it can be employed to agro industry, it can be with the packaging industry, it can be with the transport and storage industry. One point I would like to add on that, there is a version revision happens, and in that 5.1 of FSSC 22000 5.1 version, there is an additional requirement is a food safety culture. It's based on the behavioral science and how the industry take on for the food safety culture. It can be done through your food safety talks. It can be done as a food safety week celebrations, etc. And I would say, just last.
Please.
I would say that FSSC is a dynamic structure. It is revised 6 monthly or 1 year, depending on the industry requirement.
Thank you, Alpesh. Very well explained how FSSC has covered as an umbrella certification for food safety, and food safety culture is a new addition. I think a very valid point raised here. Before I move ahead, I would like to ask Mr. Biswajit to share some key drivers to make these system, whether it is HACCP or whether it is HARPC, to be more effective, more efficient, and result-oriented. Mr. Biswajit, sir.
Good morning, members. Drivers is here the software. Software is to run the show. It starts with the top management commitment. Top management commitment will include the demonstration of resource, providing resource, making right kind of people engaged, right leadership, creating awareness forum, training forum, and also the communication part. Now when I say right kind of people, as you have understood that this HACCP, first thing requires a team. This team should be a multidisciplinary team where they will understand the risk and potential risk from start to end or farm to fork. So this multidisciplinary team also be led by some coordinator, and he should be able to take the team along and use his skill, especially communication, coordination, facilitation, training and coaching even required. So this is another aspect. And when you say training does miracle. When we do any change in the factory or in the industry, people are afraid the new people will come, we are obsolete. Not like that. Training upgrades the people, and when they are trained, they perform their work in such a way it looks like a miracle. When training is given and they are upgraded, as if they have got new eye to the old system, and they perform their best job and achieve the objective of the HACCP. As far as HARPC is concerned and HACCP, both have the same commonality in the approach. Though HARPC is the higher version, there requires multidisciplinary team. The team should have a capability to study much and more and validate in an extensive manner. These are all, I think, driver point of view. I thank you.
Thank you, Biswajit. Very well. Like if you not implement in effective way on the shop floor, these systems are just a piece of paper. Very well said, Deshraj, and commitment from the management is very important here. I would now move to another discussion to another level, the emerging risk, how that HACCP or HARPC or FSSC, for an example, take care of emerging risk in current scenario. Mr. Kriti, Madam Kriti.
Thank you so much. So I would say a lot has been said about HACCP and how do we go about it, how do we plan the entire process. So the main aspect here is identifying the risk. So when we identify the risk, they can be categorized into different kinds of risks, be it physical, when we talk about the hazards here, be it physical, chemical or the microbiological. But there is an imminent and pertinent need that we keep on updating our system depending on the changes in the process. We do make changes in the process depending on the product quality or product need, even the formulations. So there has to be a revision and a periodic check related to the hazards that we have identified. So the decision tree and all those tools that have been given to identify the PRPs, OPRPs and the CCPs are very important to be revisited at a very constant or say a very regular frequency. And of course, whenever there is a very slight change even in the process or the plant or anything, that needs to be revisited, even your ingredients per se. So we all have seen in the past that the procurement or the supply chain sometimes gets affected and we have to move to another vendor or select another vendor for the same. So when we do that, it's very important that starting from the raw material, be it the raw material, the packaging material, everything has been checked for all the things that we need to take into account. So be it your chemical hazards which can arise from heavy metals, or migration tests that need to be done in a very effective manner when you are changing a packaging material or anything, that needs to be in place. And of course, the heavy metals and aflatoxins that can come from the raw material as well, they need to be elaborated.
Thank you, Kriti. I think you have...
just wanted to add one thing. So, of course, there are allergens also that have been identified by FSSAI. So, there are a list of them, and of course, these also need to be taken into account. So, we are progressing in research every day. We need to update our systems and identify the risks and assess how we can mitigate those risks in a efficient manner. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kriti, and very well said. Like the contaminants, it can be from your raw material, it can be from your process, it can be from the environment. So these are the emerging risks, and it put the whole process in a different way of analysis, and very well said. So moving further, I would like to invite to speak Mr. Uday to tell us about how storage and transportation play an important role to mitigate the risk and avoid any contamination. Mr. Uday, please.
I think I would like to add in this story.
Jagdish, Jagdish, sorry, I missed your name, my fault, please.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much.
And this is because of your expertise. I would like you to, speak on this topic, and please go ahead.
Sure, thank you. Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Synnex event organizer, and the delegates. This is the first morning session. So, my fellow speaker already spoke about HACCP, HACCP, and with due limited time, like it is a waste that we are going to discuss that what is there. See, being in a manufacturing organization, we are in the food industry. Most of the time our product will remain in the transit. Manufacturing depend on the product characteristic or the product, the processing time. It may take 1 day, 2 day, or a week time. But if you see in the globally, if you are transporting the material, 60% to 65% metal is being transported through sea, 5% by air, and that's 25 to 30% by the road mechanism. So most of the time we focus on making a number of stringent system for the food security, for the food defense, for the management, for HACCP, HACCP, for security, everything to make our product is safe for the human consumption when it is being just exported or when it is being dispatched from a facility, where it is having only like 5 to 10% of the time of the entire life cycle. Rest of the time it will be moving to the other location. So during transport, like what are the risks associated when we are just sending our material from one place to another? So one is the food security. Second is whenever we are having some proper temperature control for the product which are the perishable in item, and the temperature play a very crucial role in that. Third is lack of awareness for your service provider. When we are, for example, we are dealing with a number of manufacturing industry which may or may not be able to just send a full container load or for the transport, so there would be a mix of material. And awareness of the person who is going to just take the material, and sometime when the material is being handed over from one place to another, then it is waiting for investigation, it is waiting for some kind of an inspection. So these are the risks which are associated during the transport and storage. So first, how the food security, we are having certain kind of mechanism for the data, for the security seal, when it is comes for the large manufacturing industry, when it is being going to the center as a container load. But when it is a small shipment, that we need to devise some kind of a to-do check sheet or some inspection mechanism which can be done at the point of dispatch and the point of receiving. Second is the training of your service provider. We are having all the technical expertise in our manufacturing facility, but the service provider, if you guide him what need to be done, maybe he is not aware about what if the temperature, he just stopped the temperature or the refrigerated vehicles for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, how it is going to impact on the food security, the food safety. So at the same time, if we can develop some mechanism to just train our service provider, I think that is going to add in some value. And yes, to do check sheet, again, it is required when we are sending some partial shipment, we need to mention that when the food is being exported or food is being dispatched, it is with the non-food material or for the allergen material, what are the precautions need to be taken care? Because the person who is carrying your material, domestic or export, he may not be aware of the food safety and food security requirement. To have a small check sheet, which we can train them, that is going to help it out. So thank you, I think I commit.
Thank you, Jagdish, for explaining very well how the transport is important. I am coming back to the HARPC. Just to put more light on that how the environmental control is important, or monitoring is, in fact, environmental monitoring is important in HARPC. I would like to put some light on this. Mr. Uday, please.
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. So I would start from the points which Naveen was explaining. Naveen, I think it was wonderful explanation about HARPC. There are two things which has to be seen on an HACCP, including the HARPC, is understanding the preventive controls on HARPC and actually establishing an approach towards the process where we establish our controls and maintain it, right? Somewhere we talk about an reactive phase and a proactive phase. So HARPC is something proactive. I think this started from the US FDA recommended. I think the history was wonderful. It was 2011 where the system got implemented, and there it is mandatory. But still, even in FSSAI, there is a recommendation of EMMP for the sites. It talks. Hello? Yeah. How this is working? Yeah, so I was talking about the FSSAI recommendations on EMMP. The basic control on any food industry is maybe the contamination, the cross-contamination which we talk about. The contaminations can happen from various sources. It might be human, it might be from the process. Sir was talking about a PDCA. We have a process where we could establish control. We could actually, I think the approach which Naveen was trying to put on PCQI, dividing the HARPC into categories like process preventive control, sanitation preventive control, and the supply chain preventive control. So I would talk about one of the example of putting across an environmental microbial monitoring plan. This revolves on any food industry to control the current hygiene standards. I think we should establish, the recommendation will be to establish a site selection protocol for the sites, and it can be divided into zones like 1, 2, 3, 4. And the zones can be like the product contact surface, adjacent surfaces to the product contact surfaces. And it might be inside the premises where it is not product contact surface, but it could act as a source of contamination. And and the fourth one will be the premises which are out of zone 3, where the humans can move around and they can come back as a process contamination to the food. Establishing controls to it should be towards a trend monitoring. Probably I think we need to put across controls on how the current status of microbial flora, which is around in this process locations, and also putting around a corrective action, like it was explained in Naveen's speech, that how we establish a corrective action proactively to these sites and maintain control so that we don't add an hazard to our food. Later, I think it could actually get eliminated or controlled in an HACCP system. But being proactive, putting across HARPC would be one of the recommendation by the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Uday and Naveen, to explain this new words, HARPC. You know, it is very new for me, and I hope most of us. But explaining this, in such a simple way, Naveen, you would like to add something here?
HRAPC, it's a new animal, okay? In this room, I think we are well versed with HACCP system, okay? And we say HACCP and HRACP, they both approaches are for to develop a food safety plan. And my personal experience is that, and I have been working overseas as well in New Zealand, my personal experience is that you may have a fantastic text based on all these sort of principles, but to get an effectiveness of it, to have a better output of it, invest in your staff. That will produce better communication, that will produce less gaps, and you will have better output and better outcomes. So invest in your staff, train your staff, and that will really flow your plant processing very smoothly.
Mr. Krishna, you want to add something?
So I just want to add a few things. One, the FSSI is dynamic. Now you have various limits for the various hazards, including pesticides, antibiotics, plant growth hormones, okay, heavy metals. So for everything, the limits are set by FSSAI. So it is dynamic. Please keep those things when you are designing your HACCP or HARCP plans. Now, the second point is, when we talk about HARCP, it talks about the ultimate impact on the human health. While in HACCP, what happens? You define your CCP based on your process efficiency. So there's a difference. Lot more thing has to be done in HARCP, right? So you have to look at the human health and then design your CCP and control measures and everything. While in current HACCP, you just look at your process, whether I can control it, where I can control it, up to what level I can control it, is like that only, right? So please look at those regulations which are in FSSAI, link it to your control plans and design your hazard system or critical control point or whatever it is.
One more point before we, one more topic in fact I want to cover is food defense, which is also part of FSSC and okay. So food defense, there could be different aspects of food defense, intentional, unintentional. I would like panelists to add some light on this. Bisbit, would you like to add some point here?
Thank you. We have heard, we have practiced HACCP, now we are hearing HARPC. All system is in place, but still there is another vulnerable area where we have to look at, where food defense, the word came into being. The intentional, unintentional, even sabotage should be assessed in our system from farm to fork. So this is one area people are working, industry is working. I can give one example. If your water tank is contaminated by intentionally or unintentionally, that this very question should lead us to create a defense on it, make it under lock and key, make responsible somebody, and other thing will follow, cleaning and sanitation. So what if any unknown person enters in your factory, in your premises, and does some unintentional, which is sabotaging our business. So nowadays, physical monitoring, digital monitoring, so many monitoring finger has come into place. We can have our practical sense and create a synergistic control over this thing. There could be many more. I hope other panelists also can add to such things.
Want to add?
Hello. Yeah. See, when we are talking about the food security, in our premises, yes, we do have very much controls when the product is being manufactured. But the main place where the food security work is when the product is being dispatched from a facility and it's supposed to reach the receiver end. So that is where we need to have a stringent protocol. We do have like ISO 39001 for the road safety management system. The same way there should be a management system should be there in my opinion, which could be for the and transport and storage when the material is being just moved from a facility and when it reach to receiver end. So that's one. Thank you.
Very good discussion so far. We have covered what is we spoke about HACCP, we spoke about HARPC, we spoke about emerging risk, we spoke about what the role environmental monitoring can do in terms of correcting or mitigating the risk. We spoke about FSSC. We spoke about how these things could be effective, Vijay said, like it is a commitment. Commitment is very important. So if I would say, I ask my panelists, what one priority you would like to give as a recommendation to make the system more effective and efficient? You can take from that side, Naveen.
Have a very good technical hand and have a good human being at your workplace. So two things, combination of two things will definitely take you through, what you want to achieve. So,
Uday.
I think I will stress upon the same thing, being proactive. Never ever, after making a lot of process, a lot of preventive measures, we should never reach a risk to the consumer, because consumer is the ultimate. So we need to have a program where we could manage the entire supply chain. Like Jagdish was talking about after the factory, right? So after the factory also, there should be preventive measures which could help
Quickly,
to
1 or
control.
2 points if somebody wants to add.
Yeah, just I want to add one point that being a professional in the quality assurance, we should work on the evidence-based approach. We should not assume that our transporter and other people are known to everything. Just have it, give them, train them, and make them aware so that this all the risk can be mitigated.
It's a good sum up of what we discussed, like preventive, proactive, culture, commitment. I think very well covered. And I have nothing to recommend, add more recommendation here because already said. Only thing is we should be also lean in our approach. We should not be overburdened on the documentation and that, so we should be lean and effective. That is another area I see, where we can use technology to make lean and paper-free approach. Thank you, panelists. And before I say thank you, I'll ask Krishna to add something.
So do two things from my side. One is, there are lot many rapid alert systems are available on your Google. Please search it. Whether it is US FDA or Europe or anybody, because the risk is transferring across the world. It's not localized nowadays. So please keep watch on that and design your systems accordingly. The second point is, please also keep watching the FSSAI regulations. They are dynamic and all the limits are set there, minimum, maximum, whatever is there. So accordingly, that thing should also be part of your
this kind of plan?
Thank you, Krishna, and floor is open for the questions, if any.
Thank you so much, Deshraj ji, for wonderfully summing up the panel. So in the interest of the time, we can take one quick question. So I have the first hand here. So I request you to kindly introduce yourself and humble request to keep the question brief and to the particular panel member.
Yeah, good morning everyone. मेरा क्वेश्चन डॉक्टर नवीन से है. मेरा जो अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, पर्सनली माय अंडरस्टैंडिंग अबाउट हासप एंड हापसी, मेरा इसका अंडरस्टैंडिंग है कि हापसी इज गिविंग इमेंस पावर टू द इम्प्लीमेंटर और रेगुलेटर. इज दिस करेक्ट? नंबर वन. नंबर टू, आपने बोला था कि व्हेन यू वांट टू इम्प्लीमेंट योर दिस सिस्टम more effective manner, then you have to train your staff and you have to invest on your staff. My understanding is that bigger than that, management commitment is required. So can you please correct me? Thank you.
Okay. You have asked me two questions. So if my understanding is clear of your question, if it is not, correct me. You are saying that the HARPC is more effective? Is that?
No, it gives immense power to the regulator or implementer if you compare with the HACCP.
Okay, yeah, got it. Okay. See, before what used to happen, we are all versed with HACCP approach, right? And HACCP approach is basically driven by USDA. So what US Congress has done is now, FDA wing is more armed. When I say armed, so this HRPC, it lies within the scope of FDA. So the food operators who are, going to be licensed or registered with FDA, they will have to comply with HRAPCA. And probably at the moment, they might be working with HACCP approach, but over time they have to shift to HRPCA because that is mandatory and they have to comply with it if they want to cross the US border and they want to get their supply into US. So it's not about who is going to be powerful, it's all about splitting, who is going to control what. So HACCP is going to stay, it's not going to go away, but FDA has come up with this new set of principles which is called HRPCA. So, sorry for that abbreviation So that's how it is. So it's all about, splitting the power and making sure who controls what. So USDA is going to control still with HACCP, your meat plants, your egg processing units, all going to be, or your juice producers, seafood producers, they all going to be still be controlled by HACCP approach, and that covers, USDA. That's a USDA thingy, okay? And the second part is about the commitment. Yeah, you're right. It's all driven from the top. But when I say invest, who's going to make that Who's going to make that commitment? Of course, the top level management. So basically, indirectly, I said, yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm not disputing your comment. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that question. And Deshraj ji, with your permission, can we wrap the panel and can we have a big round of applause for this wonderful panel session. Ladies and gentlemen, first panel of the day on day 2, biological, chemical and physical hazards assessed with HACCP. Wonderfully done and wonderfully moderated by Deshraj Sharma from Ferrero, India. I would now request Dr. Vinay Kumar Jain, Center of Excellence Manager from Agilent Technologies, to kindly do the honors of felicitating this eminent panel members here. Thank you so much, Doctor, for doing the honors. We'll start with Mr. Krishna Kumar Joshi, Regulatory Head, Food ITC Limited. A big round of applause to Krishna Kumar ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Mr. Uday Manikandan, Director Quality Assurance, Licious. A big round of applause to Uday ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Mr. Jagdish Pant, General Manager, CQA, Olive Lifesciences. A big round of applause to Jagdish ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Mr. Alpesh Jain from Mehsana District Cooperative Milk Producers Union Limited, Amul Group. A big round of applause to Alpesh ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Dr. Kriti Soni, Head R&D Kapiva Ayurveda. A big round of applause to Dr. Soni for her wonderful contribution in the panel session. Dr. Naveen, Dhanda, Director, JSBS Foods. A big round of applause to Dr. Naveen for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. Mr. Biswajit Datta, Chief Quality Officer, Mother Dairy Fruit and Vegetables. A big round of applause to Biswajit ji for his wonderful contribution in the panel session. And our honorable moderator, Mr. Deshraj Sharma, Head Quality India, Ferrero, India. Big round of applause to Deshraj ji. Wonderfully moderated this panel session of the day. I would now request all the panel members, if you could please come forward for a group photograph, and Dr. Vinay, if you could also join them. And a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. That was our first panel session on biological, chemical and physical hazards assessed with HACCP, and a wonderful panel of experts. Mr. Krishna Kumar Joshi, Mr. Uday Manikandan, Mr. Jagdish Pant, Mr. Alpesh Jain, Dr. Kriti Soni, Dr. Naveen Dhanda, Mr. Biswajit Datta, and our honorable moderator, Mr. Deshraj Sharma. Thank you.